Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Kit Saves the Day. Chapter 4, Do Something. Kit shivered. "Don't be afraid," said Will softly. "I'm not," said Kit, though she was. "I'm mad. We've got to get out of here. We've got to do something." Stirling gave her an earnest look, but he said nothing. Soon there was a loud rattle and clatter in the hall. The door opened and the sheriff announced, "Dinner." All the hoboes stood and formed a line. They were given a mug of water and a tin plate with a cold boiled potato, a spoonful of beans, and a slice of soggy, moldy bread on it. Though Kit was hungry, she had to force herself to eat it. The food smelled sour. It stuck to her throat, so she had to wash it down with the rusty-tasting water. After dinner, the sheriff bought wash basins of cold water, bars of soap, and newspaper for towels for the hoboes to wash up. Kit gave her courage and went to the sheriff. "Please, sir," she said, "there's been a mistake. My friends and I aren't hoboes. My parents don't have a phone, but please let me call my Uncle Hendrik back in Cincinnati. He'll tell my parents and they'll come get us." The sheriff crossed his arms over his chest. "If you have relatives in Cincinnati," he said, "what are you doing on the train? You bums, always making up stories like you've got an uncle who will help you." He shook his head. "You think I'll believe that lie?" "Please let me use the phone," said Kit. "You'll see that I'm telling the truth." The sheriff snorted. "Where's your money for the call?" "Well," said Kit, "well, I don't have any money, but—" "Of course you don't," interrupted the sheriff. He laughed a mean laugh. "Nice try, boy. You're a good panhandler. But I've seen too many of you beggars fall for your tricks. Where would I be if I let every tramp who asked me to make a free phone call? In the poorhouse, that's where." Why can't Kit call Ruthie? The Smithens take phone calls for the Kittredges. Anyway, Kit stamped her foot. "I'm not a beggar," she said. "That's enough, boy," said the sheriff. "Don't you get sassy, and take your hat off when you're speaking to me." Before Kit could stop him, he snatched Will Caps off her head. "Look at you," he snarled as he tossed the cap back at her. "A girl. I knew you were a liar. Come with me. I'm going to put you in a separate cell." "No," said Kit furiously. She did not want to be separated from Will and Stirling. She struggled against the sheriff. He was too strong for her. He held her tightly by the arm and pulled her alongside him. Just before she passed through the door, Stirling yanked hard on her sleeve. Kit looked at him. He held up a scratch of paper, and on it, Kit saw... Kit knew it was one of the hobo signs. "Which one?" she thought frantically. "What does it mean?" Suddenly, Kit remembered. Kit bent forward and grabbed her stomach with her free hand. "Oh!" she groaned. She tugged on the sheriff's arm and slumped against the wall. "Oh, my stomach. Please, sir, I feel sick." It wasn't a lie. The dinner was churning in her queasy stomach. Kit groaned again and held her hand over her mouth. "Please, sir, let me go to the bathroom." "Oh, all right," barked the sheriff, exasperated. He pointed. "In there." Kit skittered into the bathroom. The second the door closed behind her, she looked around wildly, thinking, "Is there a way out? Oh, there must be." Then, high up on the wall, she saw a little window. It was much too small for a grown person to fit through, but... Bang, bang, the sheriff hammered on the door. "Hurry up." "Yes, sir," Kit answered silently, carefully. She climbed to the sink and opened the window. She poked her head and shoulders out, hoisting herself up, and slithered through, landing hard on the ground below. Kit scrambled to her feet. She leaned up against the wall of the jail and allowed herself one shaky breath. Then she took off running. There's not a moment to lose. The sheriff soon realized she was gone. "Oh, please don't let anyone see me," she prayed as she ran. But Kit had only gone a few yards when she heard, "Hey, you, stop." She looked over the shoulder. Men outside the jail had spotted her and were chasing after her, shouting, "Come back, you." Kit ran as fast as she could, trying desperately to get away from the footsteps she could hear close behind her. A rough hand grabbed her shoulder. "Gotcha," a man panted. "No," shrieked Kit. She wrenched her shoulder out of his grasp. The man lost his balance and fell behind her with a heavy thud. This time Kit didn't look back. She ran for all she was worth, pelting down the dirt road out of Spencerville toward the railroad tracks. Home, she thought. I've got to get home and get help for Stirling and Will. On and on she ran. Finally, up ahead, she saw the railroad tracks shine silver, sharp as lightning in the darkness. She trotted next to them in a short distance. Then she stopped dead. Oh no, she thought. Below her was the river, and looming above her was the railroad trestle bridge. It wasn't a solid bridge with a road on it. Instead, it was made of crisscross metal girders that looked like strands of a gigantic spider was swum across the river. The train tracks that crossed the bridge were supported by wooden railroad ties with big gaps between them. How will I ever cross this bridge? Kit worried. Jump from tie to tie, balance on the rails if it were a tightrope. If only there was another way to cross the river. If only there was another way home. But Kit had no choice. Slowly, she walked toward the bridge. She saw that there was a narrow catwalk, 2 boards wide, that ran alongside the trail tracks. Kit took a deep breath. Gingerly, she put one foot on the catwalk to see if it would hold her weight. It did. So she eased her other foot onto it too. The catwalk boards were spattered with oil, which made them slippery. Kit stood straight, holding her arms out for balance. She tried not to look down. She tried not to hear the rustling river below. She knew that if she slipped, she might fall between the girders, and the river would soon sweep her away. Very cautiously, she slid one foot forward and then the other. I can do it, she said to herself. I can cross this bridge. I have to. Clouds covered the moon, making it so Kit couldn't see far ahead. The trip seemed to disappear into nothingness. All Kit do was put one slowly in front of the other and walk around. The boards of the catwalk were uneven, and Kit stubbed her toe and stumbled, almost failing. Just walk, she urged herself. Kit, keep going. Step by step, Kit inched her way along the catwalk until she was in the middle of the bridge. I'm halfway across now, she realized. There's no turning back. Suddenly, the boards began to tremble under her feet. An eerie, mournful whisper pierced the air. It seemed to cut right through Kit. Oh no, she shrieked. A train was coming straight toward her, and there was nowhere to go. I'm trapped, thought Kit. She flung desperately. Kit did the only thing she could do. She flung herself down on her stomach and stretched herself flat against the catwalk. She held on the board with both hands, pressed her face into the splintery, oily wood, and closed her eyes. With a howling whoosh, the train pushed the air in front of it. With a monstrous force, it shook the bridge violently. With a deafening roar, it thundered past, then just a few feet from Kit. She could feel its hot, fiery breath on her back. Beneath her, the boards rattled and bounced as if trying to toss her off into the water below. Kit held on for dear life. Then, as suddenly had happened, the train was gone, screaming off into the dark. For a moment, Kit couldn't move. Then she spoke to herself sternly. Get up and go. Slowly, she lifted her face. Her finger had gripped the board so tightly that they ached when she let go. She pushed herself to her knees, and shakily she stood. On wobbly legs, she made herself take one step forward, then another, and then another. I've got to get home, she told herself over and over again. I've got to get help for Stirling and Will. The bridge in the darkness seemed endless, but after a long, weary time, Kit blinked. Are those lights? She wondered, squinting at pinpoints that danced ahead of her. It's the city, she realized. Kit longed to quicken her steps, but she knew that she could be dangerous. She had to hold herself back, forced herself to walk slowly and carefully until at last her feet were on solid ground and the bridge was behind her. Kit was so relieved that she wanted to collapse, but she couldn't allow herself to stop. She pushed on, past the rail yards, past Union Station, through the city streets. This short, easy route she and Stirling had traveled on the way to the hobo show earlier. That day felt long and difficult going the other way now. Kit was so footsore and tired it took all her strength to put one foot in front of the other. As she trudged up the last hill home, Kit's heart dragged as she watched her feet. Why did I hop that fright, she thought. How could I have been so stupid? Desperate as she was to get home, Kit dreaded facing Mother, Dad, and Aunt Millie and Stirling's mother. They'll be so angry, she thought. When at last Kit saw her house ahead of her, she broke into a run, and hot tears spilled out of her eyes. Dad, Mother, she cried, wiping the tears off her cheeks. The front door opened, and yellow light poured across the lawn. Dad, Mother, Aunt Millie, and Mrs. Howard rushed outside together, and Dad ran to catch Kit in his arms. Where have you been? He asked. Are you all right, Mister? Het went down the jungle to find you. We've been frantic. What's happened? Where's Stirling? Asked Mrs. Howard. For a moment, Kit didn't answer. She buried her face in Dad's chest and held on tight. She knew that her whole life long she would never forget this feeling. This wonderful feeling of being home at last. Then she pulled away from Dad. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault, she sputtered. I wanted an adventure, and I didn't stop to think. She stopped and swallowed hard. Will and Stirling are across the river, she said in Spencerville. They're in jail. What? Gasped all the grown-ups, bewildered. Mrs. Howard held on to Mother as if she were going to faint. As swiftly as she could, Kit told the whole story. She told how she'd been so stubbornly set on having an adventure that she hopped the freight train even though Will tried to talk her out of it. She described being rounded up by the railroad bulls marched to jail. She told how Stirling scribbled a secret sign and how she escaped, crossed the Trestle Bridge, and made her way home. Then she turned to her dirt and tear-streaked face to Dad. We've got to go to Spencerville and rescue Will and Stirling right now, she pleaded. We got to get them out of jail. Dad nodded. We'll take Mr. and Mrs. Bell's car, he said. Come on. When they got out of the car in Spencerville and walked to the jail, Kit held tightly to Dad's hand. She stood very close, hidden behind him while he talked to the sheriff about letting Will and Stirling go. Go ahead and take these boys, the sheriff said, so he released Will and Stirling. We don't like their sort around here. Will and Stirling hurried Dad with grateful expressions. All three turned toward the door, but Kit held back. She stepped clearly into the light so the sheriff could see her clearly. You, exclaimed the sheriff, you should be ashamed of yourself. Kit looked at the sheriff straight in the eyes and spoke in a level voice. Sir, she said, I think you should be ashamed should be ashamed. Hopping frights is against the law, said the sheriff. It's my job to keep the bums off the train. You don't have to be so mean about it, said Kit. The hoboes haven't hurt anybody. They're just poor, and there's no reason to treat them so badly. It isn't right, and it isn't fair. The sheriff glowered, but he said nothing. Come along, Kit, said Dad softly. It's time to go home. Kit followed Stirling, Will, and Dad to the car. Stirling climbed into the back seat, and Kit sat next to him, leaving a room for Will to sit in the front, but Will didn't get in the car. Kit poked her head out. Aren't you coming, Will? Will shook his head. No, he said, thanks, but it's time for me to head west to Oregon. I don't want to miss a job during the apple harvest. Is Montana on your way? Asked Kit. I reckon so, said Will. I'll stop by and say hey to Charlie for you. Will shook Dad's hand. Goodbye, sir, he said. Thanks for everything. And he smiled his wide, heartwarming grin at Kit and Stirling. Goodbye, you two, he said. This time, Kit and Stirling could not smile back. Goodbye, Will, they said. Stirling's voice was low in the darkness, and Kit's voice was sorrowful. She was weighted down with worry now that she knew how hard Will's life really was. Dad started the car. Kit knelt down on the seat and looked out the back and waved goodbye to Will, but he had already turned away. He was walking west. Scrubbed clean and in their bathroom robes, Kit and Stirling sat in the kitchen table. As soon as they arrived home, Mother ordered them to take baths and then report to the kitchen. Now an unsmiling Aunt Millie poured them all glasses of cold milk and put plates of hot buttered toast in front of them. Mother spoke first. We are very glad you're safe, children, she said. We were worried sick about you, exclaimed Mrs. Howard. We're sorry, said Kit. But Dad put his hand up to stop her. I understand how it wants to. Uh, I understand how it feels to want to have an adventure, he said. Sometimes I think the toughest thing about this depression is enduring it day after day. But I hope you two understand that what you did was foolish and dangerous. You used poor judgment, and you're lucky you didn't have to pay for it more than you did. I think I speak for Mrs. Howard and Mother and Aunt Millie when I say we're disappointed in you. We need you to trust to be more sensible in the future. Do you understand? Kit and Sterling nodded. They both looked ashamed. Well, said Aunt Millie briskly, thank goodness it's all over now. And as Shakespeare says, all well that ends well. Kit managed a weak smile, but as she went up the stairs to her room with Mother's gentle arm around her, Kit thought perhaps this time Shakespeare and Aunt Millie were not right. Kit thought of Will and the hardship that was before him. She thought about the hungry children she'd seen eating the hobo stew. She thought of the poor, tired hoboes gathered around their fire in the jungle, resting their weary, hurt feet. She thought of the hoboes crowded so roughly in the terrible jail. For them, all was not ended, and surely all was not well. After Mother kissed her goodnight, Kit laid awake thinking, everyone should see what I saw today, she thought. Hoboes have a hard life. People should know that. Maybe someone should tell them. Someone should do something. And maybe I could. And that's the end of Kit Saves the Day. Thanks for listening.